that night, working with the medicine was hard. It was deeply, deeply transformative, and it took me weeks after that one night to fully release. And then through the integration work, then I was able to fully, over months, fully start to release that, start to let that go. I know I wouldn't be like 4 years later where I am today in my healing and my journey without that one night. After that ceremony, my relationship has shifted dramatically with my ex-husband, and he doesn't even know I'm doing this work, right? And it's because my energy has changed, right? It's pretty incredible. Sometimes it's even hard to put into words.
There is so far that you can go with talk therapy because a lot of things you cannot talk about because you are not aware of. The root of the problem is in the unconscious. That's the main reason we are keep repeating the same mistakes, even though we are wanting something different. Western medicine could not give me any solutions or answers. So I was searching in other places, and that brought me to shamanism and plant medicine. My experience with the medicine and the depth of work and the time frame, even though it takes time to do this work, but still compared to other types of therapeutic tools or modalities, it's way shorter. And that's the main reason I'm here, and we are doing this, and we are created this program because we want this technology to be available, to more people, so we can all benefit and heal together. Ignorance creates suffering. Once you have awareness, you have choice. And that's the choice I call free will. When you're ignorant, there is no choice. There is only repetition. That's why plants are so powerful, because they expand that awareness so we can become aware of the deeper reasons, of why we are physically sick and start working on that. I arrived into a place within myself where I was like, I recognize that there is a part of me who was never touched by this. And this program is especially designed to purify your whole being, and to liberate you. Hello and welcome back to my podcast, Ayahuasca Avatars, for another episode. And here we are. I'm here with my friend, my sister, my colleague, Karen the Temple. And we're going to talk about our new program, Limitless Life, that we were just launching, literally a couple of weeks ago. So you will be the first ones to hear about this amazing plan that we put together for you guys. And also what were the intentions, and our vision behind this program. So welcome, Karen. So good to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, of course. And I'm so excited about this program. I've really been looking forward to this opportunity to tell the world about what we have been up to creating this behind the scenes over the last year.
Yes, yes, so exciting. It's basically, a combination of three things that we are put together in one program: coaching, therapy, and plant medicine. And the reason why we chose these three areas is because, well, obviously my expertise is therapy, and therapy is a lot to do with the past because a lot of shit went down in the past that we need to let go,
Totally.
clear up. Yeah. And coaching is more about the future, and how you're gonna take what you learned and embody that and bring it and project it into your future, right? And making a good plan and executing that plan. And plant medicine is helping us to do both. So
Right.
I think this will be just such a powerful combination, and especially because we are using a sacred plant called ayahuasca to catalyze this process. So I'm so curious about your story, Karen, that how did you come to plant medicine? What was the first plant you worked with? How did you
Yep.
get called to the ayahuasca? If you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. Um, I started working with the plant medicine 3 or 4 years ago, and my first experience was with psilocybin. I had been in a relationship which ended in a fiery storm, because I got really triggered by this person really triggered like some unresolved, deep unresolved issues I had with my father. I was raised in a very traumatic family, a lot of abuse, a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of mental illness, and I survived. And because of that, I've always said I live a life of service. And in my service to others, I want to help them be free from their trauma, from their past, from whatever is holding them back. And over the years, I've done a tremendous amount of talk therapy, which was wonderful and super beneficial and helped me process a lot. But then when I saw this relationship really blow up, I'm like, I need to do something more. I need to do something deeper because part of me was a little tired of talking about it, right? It's like I felt like I had gotten as far as I could talking about it. I was kind of also sick of talking about it. And I'm like, I need more. And I was down in Mexico, and I remember you and I were having a chat. And you encouraged me to do a private psilocybin ceremony with a guide, on the beach. I worked with you and we set our intentions, my intentions to release all this anger and all this trauma I had around my father. I'd already done a lot of work around my mother, and now it was really time to work on my father, who scared the shit out of me. The last time I had been in contact with my father, he threatened to kill me, and I was in my 40s. So that night, working with the medicine was hard. It was deeply, deeply transformative, and all of my friends and my ancestors came and supported me as my father got released out of me, and all of that anger got released out of me. And it was an extremely, extremely powerful night. But my work began that night, right? It took me weeks to fully release. I mean, there was like 50 years of trauma, right? And 50 years of like holding on to these stories. And it took me weeks after that one night to fully release. I mean, the psilocybin was just the beginning of that. It like opened the gate to start to let it go. And then through the integration work, then I was able to fully, over months, fully start to release that, start to let that go. But it wasn't easy. I still got really angry at men, and I still had a lot to process. And a lot of awareness came from that. Oh, about my relationship with men, about why I react the way I do and respond the way I do to men. It really transformed my relationship with men. And I'm so grateful. As hard as it was, I'm so grateful for the medicine, for opening that portal, for opening that door to release all of that I'd been holding on to. I know I wouldn't be like 4 years later where I am today in my healing and my journey without that one night. And then since then, I've worked with ayahuasca, but those are more stories that we can talk about later. So now ayahuasca is the medicine that I'm working with. But I'm so grateful. I always think of it like a wormhole, like when you're in space, like the plant medicine is like a wormhole to get to your healing faster. It's a little more intense maybe, but it really helps you to see and to release things in such a powerful way. And just I'm so grateful to all of it. And because of that, we're here, right? We wanted to bring all of our magic to our clients and our combined skill set.
Yeah, totally. I remember that in one of the ayahuasca ceremonies that you sit we sit together, you were continuing with this work with your ex-partners and, letting go of some stuff. And it was like one after the other, right? And I remember that then you had some really cool dreams that kind of affirmed to you that that was a good work done. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. I in a recent ayahuasca ceremony, the abuela helped me to, release a lot of blocks that I had with my ex-husband and with partners I've had in the past. And after that ceremony, I started to have dreams without anger towards my ex-husband, towards my parents. There was a dream that my parents were in and no one was yelling at each other. My relationship has shifted dramatically with my ex-husband, and he doesn't even know I'm doing this work, right? Suddenly, we had to come to a decision about some finances with our son, and it was just like two emails and it was done. And I was like, what's happening? And it's because my energy has changed, right? I've been released from that anger and I feel more free. And now I'm showing up in a different way with a different energy. And because of that, men are responding to me differently, particularly the men that I've had like a long traumatic history with. Now they're my father's since passed. Both my parents have, but my ex-husband's the one I can really kind of use as like a guide. Like now he's responding to me differently because I'm showing up differently. It's pretty incredible. Sometimes it's even hard to put into words.
Yeah, it is so true. Thank you for sharing. For me as well, one of the main reasons I started working with the medicine many years ago was my relationship with my father. And I think a lot of people can relate. Family relationships really define us, define our identity,
Yeah,
affect
yeah,
your relationship with the opposite sex parent is like influencing your romantic relationships and creates a template for that. And as you said, you had some struggles in the area, and I am the same. I had very horrible relationship with my father growing up, a lot of conflict, and then all my romantic relationships for a long time was kind of repeating, that
yeah,
I think, relationships are one of the most important thing in life. That's how we nourish ourselves. That's how we share ourselves. And you can have career and money and success and fame and all of those things. But if your relationships are not happy and not fulfilling, if there is a lot of suffering and struggle in that's going to really, make a stamp on your life, so to say.
for
So
sure.
I come with my father, to the extent when it was like a breaking point for me, and I was like, okay, I don't want to have a relationship with him anymore. I rather not have a relationship, but at the same time, if I imagine that, okay, I'm not gonna have a relationship with him, I'm not gonna talk to him anymore, that also pained me. That was not an ideal outcome that I would have truly wished for. What I really wanted is to find resolution and repair, and as you said, myself, I've been to therapy for many, many years, and I myself have a master's in psychology and became a therapist myself, trying to figure things out. And you are very right in what you said, that there is so far that you can go with talk therapy, because, well, there's several reasons for that, I think, but one of the reasons for me, one of the biggest reason, is that a lot of things you cannot talk about because you are not aware of. Yeah, like a big part of our mind is unconscious. Like more than 90% of our mind is unconscious, and it's like very small percentage that is conscious, which means you are aware of those thoughts, of those feelings, whatever. And then there is a whole lot that you are not aware of. And my experience, in the last 25 years is that the root of the problem is in the unconscious. The root of the problem is where, where you cannot go, what you are not aware of. And it's kind of like a blind spot. And I think that's the main reason we are keep repeating the same mistakes, even though we are wanting something different. We are desiring something different, but the roots are so strongly anchored
Yeah.
there in the unconscious, and you cannot change what you don't know, what you're not aware. How could you change that? So I think that's a very big limitation of talk therapy, and that's definitely was something that pushed me towards plant medicine and shamanism, and then really opened the door.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
right, to the unconscious and to those, okay, let's go deep here, let's go where is all this stemming from. In my case, I ended up not talking to my father for 2 years in my life while trying to find, a resolution. That was after I started drinking medicine. At the beginning, that's what I felt, that the first step I need to do is to set some boundaries and to protect myself, no matter what it takes, until I can work out a better solution. That was intense, and then the repair started slowly, and today we have a very good, well, very good, compared to how it was. I say it's very good now. It's certainly better that I could ever hope for or imagine, and I'm very grateful for that. But what's most important for me, that is, I am at peace in
yeah,
myself with it and with him, and I was tormented, for most of my life. And as I said earlier, this put like a big it had a big influence on my romantic relationships, and it created a tremendous amount of suffering in my life. And this is something that I really wanted to change, and I was very committed, so much so that I was willing to go to Peru in the ayahuasca. But I just want to say to all of you that is listening, that it's not an overnight job. As Karen said, it's not, this not happens in one ceremony. This requires dedicated work. But I'm very grateful, for that I was willing to do this work and put in the work, and I had that kind of courage, that even though I was afraid, to go into these experiences, is not that I didn't have any fear, but my desire to change and to create something different in my life was a little bit stronger than the fear. And that allowed me, to keep going ahead and one step at a time. For me, another kind of main catalyst in my life was like a chronic pain that I dealt with, like most of my life, that was connected to my menstrual cycle. And this was like a pretty extreme, debilitating situation for me, so much so. And I know, I'm aware that a lot of women have pain, and
mm,
they suffer, when they have their moon cycle. But in my case, that was so extreme that I would just, throw up and pass out from the pain.
mhm, mhm.
So I was completely debilitated. I couldn't work. I couldn't go to school, when I was younger, during those days. And it was something completely mysterious and unexplainable at the beginning, because obviously my parents took me to the doctors, and the doctors examined me in all kinds of way, and I was in a hospital multiple times, them trying to figure out. In the end, they couldn't find anything wrong with my physical body. There was no physical explanation of why I'm experiencing that level of pain. So they just put me on contraceptive pills when I was 13 years old. And you can imagine, this was quite a long time ago, more than 30
Right.
years ago. So it's, those peers at that time, they are not the peers that they have now. They were way worse and more heavy. And
A
anyway,
lot of hormones. Yeah, not as sophisticated as they are now. Yeah.
exactly. And anyways, to intervene to a 13-year-old, when your system is developing, your hormones are, going all over the place and
Right, right.
everything. You are adolescent, so it wasn't such a good idea. And then painkillers, so that was their solutions, the contraceptive and the painkillers. And I was
Sure.
those pills for a long time and still didn't go to school. Like even though I would have the painkillers and everything, I still could not get out of the bed. So it didn't solve my problem. It mitigated it to a certain extent. So I wouldn't faint, I wouldn't throw up anymore, but I was still super sick and I was in a lot of pain, even with the pills and everything, and had to stay in bed. And that was something that from the beginning I was like, why is this? This has to be a
Yeah.
reason. Like, I mean, there just has to be a reason. And I had just had this like unquenchable thirst and desire to find the answers, to understand, why I'm in so much pain. Why is this happening? And that put me on a path of healing, the story of the wounded healer, all of us, and lots of obviously therapy, holistic healing, crystals, magnets, flower essences, you name it,
All the woohoo stuff, right?
whatever you can. I was like, whatever, put me the tarot cards if that's gonna help me. I don't care, because like Western medicine could not give me any solutions or answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was searching in other places, and that brought me to shamanism and plant medicine. And I was asking these questions of myself, what people did before modern medicine that is only 400 years old, right? So what people did, like when they were sick, when they were suffering, what did they do when there was no hospitals, no pills, no dentist office? And when I was introduced to shamanism and especially the Red Road, the tradition of the Americas, that started, to open my understanding of the healing power of the plants and nature, and the nature as pharmacy and nature, food as medicine, food, plants as medicine, and and that's totally, put me in a very, very different direction that eventually brought me to sacred plants and the
Hmm.
ayahuasca. And through many years of work, well, my first dieta in Peru, when I came out of that dieta, the pain that I had significantly reduced, I would say like
Yeah.
70%.
Yeah.
I was able to stop taking pills at that time, and that was something that was a huge step forward for me. I would have some months that would be pretty intense, or I would maybe take a painkiller, but most of the time, the pain that I was having, it was more manageable, and I could just breathe
Mhm.
through it, and I could, and then it would pass quicker, and the intensity was way less. And the understanding behind it for me was that it's it was something ancestral, that the trauma, you can inherit trauma through your
Sure.
ancestral lineage, as we inherit DNA, as we inherit
Yeah.
thing, you inherit trauma, and in that first trip for me to Peru, that was the information that came through, that trauma that's connected to women and womb space was kind of coming down on my family lineage. And for some reason, I was holding the memory of that trauma, of that pain in my physical body. And when I would bleed, that memory of pain would activate, so to say, and I would feel that intense pain, that was not physical. I mean, it was physical, like I would feel it physically, but right, it was coming from a non-physical place. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. That was my
Yeah.
being, and that helped me, greatly. But the work continued, as you say, the bigger part of the work happens outside of the ceremony, and that's where the magic really happens. And for me, it took many years to keep working with this, and go deeper and finding the real root reasons. And the medicine helped me to do that, And eventually I was able to go to the bottom of this. That was unfortunately some childhood sexual abuse that I went through, that I suppressed into amnesia. And another episode is going to be about this because it's a long
Right.
story.
Right. Right.
The point is that I didn't remember for most of my life. This is pretty common, actually, with other people as well, especially with this type of trauma. And it's a kind of like a protection mechanism of the psyche. And so in my case, I always felt in my life that there's something wrong with me, but I would look at my life and my experience and I would think, well, nothing that horrible happened to me that would indicate the way I feel. And I really felt that it was like a blind spot. And I like most of my life, I was circling around it. And that's why I went into healing. That's why I went into therapy. That's what I went into the Amazon. It was basically, it just put me on a trajectory. It was like such a central theme of my life, and coupled with the relationship issues. So this physical issue I was having and the relationship problems that I was having with men, I was like, okay, I have to figure this out. And the medicine helped me to recover those memories. And it was a pretty horrible and intense experience, because
Sure.
something like this happens to you, because I never processed that, even though it happened a long time ago. When I get the memories back, it felt that it is happening to me now. It was just a very weird feeling and state of being. And because you're feeling everything for the first time that you never felt, because you just kind of pushed it away at that time. So that was pretty intense, but also it was the beginning of my true healing and transformation. And I remember even in the experience, I had gratitude because I was thinking that finally I can be free. This is a liberation for me, because I was determined to repeat. There is that saying, what we don't repair, you repeat what you don't repair. And that's definitely was my experience. And even though I was going through this intensity, I thought, oh, finally, this is the missing piece, of the puzzle. This is that information that I absolutely crucially needed in order to really heal and change. And I just couldn't access this information before. And the plants and the ayahuasca specifically, helped me to open the door. But I had to go through many door openings ready to open this door. So this didn't happen overnight. So yeah, I can say that I'm very devoted to working with this plant. I believe that without the mother ayahuasca, I would never recovered my memories. I
Yeah.
would have never had a chance to heal myself, to change my life, to change my relationship to man, to let go of that tremendous fear and anger that I had towards them for obvious reasons. And
Yeah. Yeah.
to have a chance, to create something more healthy and more loving. At that time, I was already a therapist, for many years, and I had my own practice. But my experience with the medicine and the depth of work and the time frame, even though it takes time to do this work, but still compared to other types of therapeutic tools or modalities, it's way shorter. You said that a shortcut as well. So it is a shortcut compared to other things, but also the intensity is higher. So that's why I decided to pivot my practice into psychedelic therapy, because I had such a transformational experience. And I was like, I wanna share that with others. And the last 10 years, with my program Heart Medicine, I help many people who were in desperate situations similar like I was, and they tried everything, and Western medicine gave up upon them, and they were, really at the last straw. And I had the honor to help many people, to create their breakthrough results and their healing. And that's the main reason I'm here. And we are doing this, and we are created this program because we want this technology to be available, to more people, so we can all benefit and heal together.
Thank you for sharing your powerful stories, Nina. A couple of things come to mind as you were talking. This piece about awareness. I know a lot of the work that you do in the therapy and a ton of the work that I do in the coaching is around awareness. Because when we don't have awareness of our triggers, of our responses, of our reactions, then we can't heal or we can't change. And so that awareness piece is so huge. And I loved how you talk about so much of our mind is unconscious. And we need a therapist or a coach in the medicine to help help bring awareness to how we're responding to situations, how we're reacting to situations, because you and I act like mirrors to our clients. And so that awareness piece is just so, so huge. And as you were talking, I had a new awareness about the physical pain that you had been going through. When I was in my early 30s, I was diagnosed with colitis. And it took them a very long time to diagnose me. And the doctors thought it was really interesting that I was diagnosed so late in life with colitis, and I had it really bad. And that's when things were really bad with my parents. And we were in therapy together, and there was just a lot going on. And so then I come down with colitis and suffered from colitis, for 20 years. And now that I've been working with the plant medicine and I've been releasing this trauma and releasing this anger, last year when I got a colonoscopy, the doctor said, "We see no signs of colitis anymore." I think it's gone. I got sick from all of that anger and from all of that trauma, and in me it manifested in colitis, and I'm free from that, hopefully forever. I'm free from that disease, that sickness, which was so debilitating, for 20 years.
I believe that most chronic disease is based in trauma. And the mental emotion, it has mental emotional roots. The physical manifestation of that is just the last emergency signal from your system.
Right, right, right,
Hello, you need to do something, you need to change something, right? I've seen this so many times, and that's why I think Western medicine is so ineffective with chronic disease, because
right.
cancer, look at autoimmune, look at, like colitis, also chronic disease, right? So like,
Yeah,
look,
yeah, yeah.
they can't tell you why you have it. They can't heal it, they can't cure it. They can sometimes mitigate the symptoms, but there is no cure, there is no healing. And I think the reason for that, because they are looking for the answers on the physical level, and the answers are not there. The answers are
Yeah.
in in the mental, in the emotional, the belief system, the suppressed emotions, all that we are holding inside, literally making us sick. I totally believe in that. And in my program, I work with many people with cancer,
Mhm.
autoimmune, multiple sclerosis, Crohn disease, eating disorders, obviously depression, anxiety. That's very, very common, in my clientele. And just with therapy and the plants catalyze, as you said, the plants are just portals. The plants are magnifiers for me, like it's a magnifying glass. So the plants expand awareness, and as you said, awareness is the key. And we are so ignorant, we are so ignorant and so naive in so many ways, which is okay. That's just how life is. But I think that creates the suffering, right? Ignorance creates suffering. Once you have awareness, you have choice. And that's the choice I call free will. You can choose, but when you're ignorant, there is no choice. There is only repetition. And I feel that's why plants are so powerful, because they expand that awareness so we can become aware of the deeper reasons, of why we are physically sick, and start working on that. As you said, you work with the anger, with forgiveness, your relationship, healing your relationship, and then your body naturally healed and recovered. And I've seen this so many times, with my clients, in my own life. When my memories came back, um, I don't know if you remember, but my skin broke out in a horrible,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
and I never had, and I was like 40 something, and I never had any problems with my skin in my whole life. And suddenly I was just like covered in this horrible eczema. My skin went to bleeding, it was just like, wow, what is happening? And then my memories came back, and then I was going through all that processes. Literally, it was coming out of me.
And
Oh,
yeah,
my skin, it was so crazy, but it makes sense. My skin completely calmed down and went back to normal, and I don't have that anymore, you know? So
right,
I just, beyond the shadow of a doubt, I totally agree with you on that. And that's why, in our program, we don't work on the physical level and with the physical symptoms. What we are doing is we are looking for the root of the problem, and that's, limitless life is
right,
this also,
right,
go to the root, and from the root you can go like a big tree, you can go into the crown and into the highest, biggest expression, right? But that's where everything starts, in the root. So if you ignore that, then the change will be either temporary or very small increments,
right. Like little band-aids, little fixes.
and
Yeah.
exactly. And that's why I think, especially with the ayahuasca, I think she's a master of, you want to go to the root. Let me open the doors for you, I think that's why it's so powerful. So thank you for bringing that up.
And I also wanted to connect the dots on another piece that had to do with awareness. Like, I'm so excited. I just had that awareness about the colitis, connecting that dot. See, I mean, the work just still continues, right? The awareness and the work is just an ongoing journey. And that's part of the magic that we bring to this program is in partnership. Nina and I are excited to work with our clients on bringing all of this to the surface so that we can work with our clients to release so that they can start to live their limited life, like start to live their true potential, start to be who they truly want to be so they can be true to themselves. Another piece I want to point out, which Nina, you helped me see, you pointed out to me my relationship with men and my anger around men just didn't show up in my personal life. I'm an entrepreneur, right? I've had my own business for 20 years. And and I noticed I had conflicts with men in my business relationships. It really affected my business relationships. I already mentioned it affected my personal relationships. I'm also an athlete. It affected my coaching relationships when men showed up as my coaches and triggered me like my dad. So it's usually not in just one area of our lives. When we start to connect those dots, and again, sometimes we need an outside person to help us become aware and to help us see those dots. And then you start to realize this is affecting my entire life and holding me back in more than one way. And now that I've worked on releasing that, my business life is changing, my athletic life, like all of the different aspects of my life have started to change again because I'm showing up with a different energy.
Totally, absolutely. It's just so widespread. And you mentioned earlier our story, and how we are involved. Obviously, everybody has a story, and that's my story, and that becomes your identity, and all your struggles and look what I went through, look what happened to. And I think at the beginning we start out as victims, we all feel so victims.
Sure,
We feel that, oh, like I have the worst life ever, everybody
sure.
else happy. And then I for me, another aspect of healing work, and especially working with plant medicine, is to move from victimhood into creatorship and to take our
Yeah.
power, and to say, okay, you know what, this is not going to define me. I want to allow this to define my life, to become my identity. And that's a way of rising above, because you cannot delete what happened, you cannot delete the past, in this life, in this linear timeline.
Mhm.
But I think for me, I could rise within me to a place that was not touched by all of this shit, and
Mhm.
and and that was a real breakthrough for me and the real liberation, because before, my whole identity and my whole story was wrapped around me, and what happened to me, and how I dealt with it and all that, and that's what I thought who I was, and And after a while, I arrived into a place within myself where I was like, I recognized that there is a part of me who was never touched by this, because it's that essence self, your soul, your spirit, your higher self, the God within you, whatever you want to call it, that cannot be, broken, that cannot be hurt by anything. That's divine, that's perfect. But obviously I wasn't in touch with that part of me. I was very, very separated from that. And intellectually, I did believe, that I have a soul and a spirit, but I never experienced this. And that's another thing that was a huge breakthrough for me with plant medicine, is to reconnect to my true self, to my
Yeah.
spirit self, to my essence self, and to recognize from that vantage point that all this doesn't hold so much power anymore. So that's what it means for me to transcend. It's still there. I still remember, I still have the memories, but I know that I'm so much more than
Yeah.
that, than what happened. And that bigger part of me, that more part of me, can hold space for this little story with so much love and compassion and gentleness. And that's what's healing for me. That's what it means for me to heal. That's what the program is about, like a personal liberation, freedom from suffering, freedom from those mental inflictions, those emotional wounds, traumas, the stories, the identity, the victimhood that has such hold on us, all that was put upon us, by society, by the family, and that limits us, limits our expression, limits our potential, because we believe that we are not worthy, we are not powerful, we are not good enough, so on and so forth. And then we become smaller and smaller, right? And the more
Yeah.
little, and this program is especially designed to purify your whole being, and to liberate you from all of this, so you can shine,
Yeah. Yeah.
your power and radiate. And then the second part of the program is, okay, now what you're going to do with your power. That's another question, right? Okay, a lot of people have power today in this world, but maybe they are not using it to the best, for the highest good of all, and for helping the earth and to help all people. Maybe they misuse their power, right? So just to have power is just half of the solution, but to be a responsible creator, that's how I saw it, to use
Mhm.
your power with that responsibility, with that awareness that you are responsible, not just for yourself and for your life, but for everything, for the human family, for the Mother Earth, because we are all connected, and it's a
Yeah.
whole symbiotic relationship, and it doesn't stop at your fence. Your responsibility doesn't stop there. To be able to come to this level, you have to have these deep spiritual transformational experiences. This is not something that you can read from a book. This is not something that you can, well, probably you can meditate yourself there if you have 50 years to sit in some cave
Right.
and
Right.
meditate
A
all
lot of
day.
a lot of Vipassana, like for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it will take a long time, so I think that's also a gift of the plants, that we have these revelations, when you experience to the core of your being, how you are connected, how you are powerful, how you are responsible for everything, and everything is your choice, and how to use that power in a responsible way. And that's the other part of our program, is to help people to climb onto that top of that pyramid of Maslow, to the self-actualization,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
liberate themselves and take back their power, but then, use their power in a responsible way, in service to others, in service to humanity, in service to the Mother Earth, for the benefit of all. That's really the goal. It just came to my mind. I wanted to bring this up because you recommended me to watch this documentary on Netflix about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah, the Enigma.
Yeah, the Enigma, guys, if you haven't seen this, and you are interested in the topics that we are talking about, that's definitely a must watch. He said a couple of things, that really, really stuck to me and spoke to my experience as well, even though our life is so different. My life couldn't be more different from his life, on the physical level, but still, on the fundamental level and the bigger truth is it was the same. And I was like, oh, when I was watching the documentary, he was talking about, the identity of a professional athlete. And their identity is so tightly woven around the winning and losing, happiness or sadness. If I win, I'm happy. If we lose, I'm sad, I'm depressed, and that's completely defined, by that. And another thing that was very interesting for me was the perfectionist, because a lot of people who are high achievers and who create something extraordinary are perfectionists. I was a perfectionist. Now I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I think especially with elite athletes, that's very, very true and fitting, because that inner drive, that perfectionism makes you to excel, to do more, to do better, to go the
I
extra.
mean, I
It's
am an
so
athlete,
awesome.
right? I mean, I was a competitive show jumper on horses for over 20 years, and now I'm a competitive tennis player. And, I played a match yesterday, a USTA match yesterday, and lost. And I was pissed like all afternoon. I can't believe I missed those shots. And I mean, it was just like churning in my head. And then I went on a beautiful hike in the afternoon. I'm here in Santa Fe. We went on a beautiful hike up and did the summit and then came back down. And in the car, I was like, God, I'm still pissed. I missed that match. And she was like, Girl, I thought we left that on the summit. Like, why are you still talking about that match? And it was just this great moment of like, yeah, you're right. I gotta let that go and move on to the next. But I remember the first time I heard Aaron Rodgers talk about his journeys with ayahuasca, talking about the power of ayahuasca and about the ceremonies he sat in the year he became MVP player of the NFL. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to change things when you start having like the Aaron Rodgers and people like that publicly speaking about the power of the plant medicine. This is going to start to shift, in addition to a lot of laws changing in the states, right? With the psilocybin legal now in Oregon a couple years, now in Colorado, just passed in New Mexico. People are seeing the progress and seeing the change, and now is the time. Like, put your seatbelt on, like, sign up for your discovery call, like, come work with us so that you can start to live that life that you really want, like whatever it is. The time is now. Like, what are you waiting for?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you feel that this calls your heart, definitely just sign up for a call, check out our program, check out the details on limitlesslife.mx. The program is online, but the retreat part of it is in Mexico. I would love to call in, especially, athletes, high-level athletes, because I feel that that's, it's a big group of people, who are getting retired at 40 and they reached everything and they still not happy. And that's what he was talking about. He was MVP, they won the Super Bowl and everything, and he still was not content and not happy, because of that perfectionism, that the other side of the perfectionism, I'm never good enough. No matter what I achieve, I'm happy for 5 minutes. And then again, what's next? What do I have to prove next and do next? When you are so involved in something and that so creates your identity, when that ends, who you're gonna be, who you are without winning, the next game, and how you can enjoy your life and still, half of your life is ahead of you, what you're gonna do, who you're gonna be. And that those are the questions, that we are asking and helping you to find your own answer, so you can still keep playing if that's what you want, but you wouldn't be attached to it. You would enjoy it, you would do it for the enjoyment, and if when it ends, you could just move on graciously. And I think, that a lot of people, so if you know any athletes who are up for, a journey like that, definitely refer them to our website and share this video with them, share this podcast episode, because we are calling in, the next Aaron Rodgers to
Absolutely, absolutely.
And also, if you are just, very successful person, businessman, you already ticked all the boxes, that society given you, and you have the fame and you have the success and you made all the money and everything, and you're still not happy, you're still not content. If you're asking the question, what's next? What now? I think that true contentment and fulfillment comes from only just knowing yourself, knowing who you truly are. There's no other way that nothing can replace that. That's my experience. So nothing can, and we try to fill that gap, that void, that need with things and with money and with success and with sex and power. But nothing is more intoxicating than to experience your own power and your own divinity and your own magnificence. And this is what this program is about.
We look forward to meeting with you and hopefully working with you, and it's going to be amazing. See you on the other side, as we say.
Thank you for listening. Please share this episode with your friends and family. Leave a comment, leave a question. We are here for you and can't wait to connect with you, and sending lots of love from our hearts to your heart out there.